All right, guys, so yesterday we had some breaking news come in. This is in the New York Post. Ghislaine Maxwell sentenced to 20 years in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case. All right, so I haven't read the specifics on this yet. I'm learning this with you guys at the moment, so let's dive into it. Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 in prison Tuesday for her role in helping powerful pedophile Jeffrey Epstein abuse young girls, capping off a dramatic fall from grace for the British socialite turned convicted sex trafficker. The word socialite is always really weird to me. I've always found that weird. U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan said the sentence of 240 months was, quote, sufficient and not greater than necessary for Maxwell, who earlier addressed the court and told her victims, quote, I am sorry for the pain that you experienced. I hope my conviction and harsh incarceration brings you closure, said Maxwell, 60 years old, wearing blue jail scrubs, her dark brown locks cut in a bob. Maxwell's face remained inscrutable as she learned her fate, and she left the courtroom without speaking to her siblings, who were sitting in the row behind her. Her attorneys requested that she serve out her time at the federal prison in Danbury, Connecticut, the low-security women's lockup that served as the inspiration for Netflix's Orange is the New Black. Her sentencing marked the end of the federal criminal proceedings against her in the Southern District of New York, where she was brought after her arrest at a sprawling New Hampshire estate in July 2020. She could potentially get credit for the 2 years she's already spent behind bars, or have some of her time shaved off for good behavior. It'll be interesting to see just how much time she actually gets as a result of it. Is she going to be out in like 10 years or something like that? It's possible. Quote, today's sentence holds Ghislaine Maxwell accountable for perpetrating heinous crimes against children, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, said in a statement. This sentence sends a strong message that no one is above the law, and it is never too late for justice. More on that in a second, because we're missing a key portion of the conversation here. Again, I'll come back to it. Outside the courthouse, Maxwell's attorney, Bobby Sternheim, said her client would appeal, saying she had been sentenced to an extremely long term. The heiress, who spent much of her life hobnobbing with the rich and famous, learned her fate months after she was convicted of grooming and trafficking teenagers for Epstein, a wealthy financier, and her one-time boyfriend. 4 women testified at her widely publicized trial in Manhattan Federal Court, and 2 of them and several other accusers also addressed the court Tuesday, calling on the judge to lock Maxwell up and throw away the key. Quote, Maxwell had many opportunities to come clean, but instead continued to make choices that cause more harm. Annie Farmer, who testified at the trial, wrote in a statement filed ahead of the hearing. Virginia Jeffrey Roberts, who has long accused Maxwell and Epstein of trafficking her to Britain's Prince Andrew, described Maxwell as like a wolf in sheep's clothing in her letter to the court. Ghislaine, you deserve to spend the rest of your life in a jail cell, she wrote. You deserve to be trapped in a cage forever, just like you trapped your victims. Prosecutors had asked U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan to slap Maxwell with between 30 to 55 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. Maxwell's defense attorneys, meanwhile, had begged for leniency, saying she should get no more than 4 to 5 years, while probation officials recommended 20. Maxwell has denied that she abused anyone. The disgraced socialite has remained locked up in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center for nearly 2 years since her bust and throughout her month-long trial, which ended with her conviction on December 29, 2021. Federal prosecutors portrayed Maxwell as a sophisticated predator who is inextricably linked to Epstein, including in his pursuit of girls to sexually abuse from 1994 to 2004. Maxwell was Jeffrey Epstein's right hand. Assistant U.S. Attorney Allison Moe said in her closing statement on December 20th, Maxwell and Epstein were partners, she said. They were partners in crime who sexually exploited young girls together. Maxwell's attorneys argued that she was being used as a scapegoat for the government's inability to prosecute Epstein, who died in a Manhattan jail cell in August 2019, awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. His death was ruled a suicide by the New York's medical examiner's office. Not buying that in the slightest, y'all. Not even a little bit. During the trial, prosecutors detailed how Maxwell and Epstein, who dated in the 1990s, preyed on poor, vulnerable teens, luring them into their orbit with the promise of cash and adventure. Selecting these girls was predatory behavior. Maxwell and Epstein picked vulnerable girls, Moe said. One of the victims who testified at trial, a woman who used the pseudonym Carolyn, told jurors she was sexually abused by Epstein more than 100 times, beginning when she was 14 years old. She said she was introduced to the duo by Jeffrey and first met them at Epstein's palatial Palm Beach, Florida estate. On the stand, Carolyn recalled the first time she visited the wealthy pervert's mansion, telling the jury that Maxwell instructed Jeffrey, you can bring her upstairs and show her what to do. The teens then massaged Epstein as he lay nude, face down on a table before he turned over and had sex with Jeffrey in front of Carolyn, she testified. Okay, see what else we got here. Carolyn said she was paid $300 that day, and for every massage she gave Epstein after that. Something sexual happened every single time, she told jurors. Another victim who testified under the pseudonym Kate told jurors that Maxwell touted her relationships with rich and powerful men who she met through Epstein and her late father, the corrupt publishing baron Robert Maxwell. The Oxford-educated heiress seemed to know everybody, Kate told the jury. She was friends with Prince Andrew, friends with Donald Trump. Sometimes their names would just come up, or she'd be talking on the phone about them with me present, Kate said. These relationships, prosecutors charged, were the reason Maxwell and Epstein got away with their crimes for so long. That ended with the 4 accusers, now grown women, testifying against the predator and helping secure her conviction with a unanimous verdict on 5 of 6 counts, including the most serious sex trafficking related to allegations of Carolyn. The defendant never thought that those teenage girls would have the strength to report what happened to them. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey told jurors at the close of the trial, in her eyes, they were just trash. But the defendant didn't count on those teenage girls growing up into the women who testified at this trial, Comey said. Women who would be willing to take that stand and tell the truth about what happened. Okay, so now what's the big part of this that's missing? First off, let me just say, obviously this is a good thing that she's, getting a hefty prison sentence. She's going to be behind bars for a very long time. She's paying for her crimes. Now, I will say, I do not know exactly how much she was involved with the particular crimes in question. I have no doubt that she was helping to groom these girls for Epstein to take advantage of them and rape them and molest them, etc. We know that as a matter of fact. I have read, I think, a couple accounts of her being involved in the sex and the rapes and all that stuff, but I do not know how much evidence there actually is to indicate she was doing stuff like that. So she may have primarily been involved in grooming them. I don't know. Having said that, either way, everybody should be happy that she's getting this much time in jail. Now, here's the part that everybody's missing. If Ghislaine Maxwell, and I still don't know how to pronounce her name to this day, and neither do you, if Ghislaine Maxwell ends up getting out of prison early, so they say, 20-year sentence. Let's say she's out in 10 years. Let's say she's out in 5 years. You can bet your bottom dollar that the reason why is it was made clear, I'm not giving up anybody. I'm not giving up a single name. Because, look, the heart of the crimes here, yes, Epstein and Maxwell, massively guilty, deserve to be behind bars. Now you have Epstein is dead, definitely not by suicide, despite what anybody tells you. Now, Maxwell is behind bars. But people who are equal criminals are the billionaires, the politicians, the elites in society who were taking advantage of these girls, who were treating them like meat and buying them, and they became unwilling participants in underage sex / rape. So the thing that I want to see, and that you should want to see too, is, let me see the list. Let me see. They have the records. We know they have the records. They kept detailed records. Let me see the list. Let me see the list, and why are prosecutors not going after the people on the list? The elites on the list, the billionaires, the politicians, etc. The celebrities. Why are they not doing that? Why are they not doing that? And again, if Ghislaine Maxwell survives and doesn't commit suicide, it's because it was made clear I'm not gonna rat on anybody who is guilty and complicit with these crimes. So we'll see. Like I said, if she gets out on good behavior early, it was very clear. She made clear, I'm not giving anybody up. And that'd be terrible. It may have been made clear to her, look, if you give anybody up, we're going to kill you. It may have been made clear to her. But again, just understand, everybody, it's really not, it's not a conspiracy to say that the CEO of Elite Sex Crimes Incorporated being killed is almost certainly a murder. That's not a conspiracy theory. Do you realize how much dirt that guy had on every powerful person in the world? Every pedo scumbag who is in a prominent position in society? He knew everything. He knew where all the bodies were buried. She knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows exactly what sex acts were done with which underage girls in a certain month, in a certain year. He knows it all. She knows it all. So if we don't get any more information, if we don't get any more prosecutions, it's because the system behind the scenes is working exactly as you would expect it to work, which means rich, powerful people, elites, are getting away with crimes because that's what they do. When you run the system, you get to cheat the system, and they run the system. And so if she dies, she almost certainly was going to give people up. Almost certainly. If she survives and she's out early, she made clear, I'm not giving a single fucking name up. So now you know, man. I think that that's where we're at with this story. And the fact that, here's the thing that's concerning to me. Why is it up to a random schmuck YouTuber like myself to have to say the very basic thing of, hey dog, let me see the list. Let me see the list. Why is it on me to say something like that? Why is it on you to think something like that? Where are the major media outlets? Where's CNN? Where's MSNBC? Where's Fox News? Where's the nightly news? Where's CBS? Where's ABC? Where are you? Where are you? This isn't a left thing or a right thing. It's a common sense thing. They ran a pedophile sex trafficking ring for the richest, most prominent people in the world. Why aren't you saying which rich, prominent people? Let's see the crimes. Let's prosecute them. Why aren't they saying that? Well, then we do get into conspiracy territory. Because remember, I forget who it was. It may have been NBC News. Correct me if I'm wrong. Post it in the comment section if you know. There was somebody who said, we had this story about Epstein. We were ready to run with it, and then it got axed. My bosses told me I can't run it. Now that is super fishy. That's as fishy as it gets. So there's a lot more control of the system than people like to think. And maybe there is, to some extent, some smoke-filled backroom conspiracy. Because the fact that nobody's even talking about that part, to see who's on the list, to see who committed the crimes, is astonishing to me. It's just going to be like me and then a bunch of like conspiracy heads who are talking about this, and then all the people who should be talking about it, crickets. So we'll see what happens. Justice was done here, but bigger justice, better justice, more important justice is us seeing the names that were on that list and them being prosecuted. But I wouldn't hold my breath for that if you know anything about how the American justice system works. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.